Do you struggle with debt? Like, does it weigh on you? Is it something in your life? Is it something in a loved one's life? If that is the case, then I have a story to share with you. So early on in my journey, I encountered a situation, like a combination of situations that led our family into a significant amount of debt. And in the process of interacting with all of the pain, shame, guilt that I had around it, a body of angels came to me and they told me something that instantly shifted my relationship to it. They said, because I was asking them, what did I do so wrong to get into this situation? And they said, debt is not proof that you're bad or wrong. Debt is not proof that you did something wrong. Debt is simply proof that you gave more than you have to give. That one statement led me on a 7-year journey that resulted in me, us exiting all of our debt, releasing all of our debt, but more importantly, creating something I call the receiving method and starting the receiving school. So I am Patty Lennon. I'm the founder of the receiving school. And while we were engaging this topic in the receiving school, some questions came up from one of the women that are training to be a facilitator of the receiving method, to be certified. And it was all about working with this concept. And I recorded training a video for our receiving school people, but I also realized this is really something that every single person probably needs to hear. And so for that, I am going to share with you that video that I shared with our receiving school members. Hey, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Hey, so one of the facilitators in my certification program, so these are individuals who are in the process of getting certified in the receiving method. One of those individuals was watching some of the coaching calls from the receiving school to take in how different topics are handled by me in the process of her preparing to work with this material. And she got to a call where I said that debt is simply proof that you are giving more than you have to give. Now, and she had some questions about this, and I was originally going to answer it just to our facilitators that are getting certified, but I realized this is a topic that a lot of people can benefit from. So I'm bringing it here in the receiving school because I'm thinking some of you might have the same questions. So that statement, to put some context to it, was something that was offered to me by a body of angels that were with me all the time after my mom had passed. So this was over 10 years ago at this point. This was the time where our family was in a lot of debt, credit card debt, and it had accumulated during a period of time where circumstances had sort of created this crazy storm, this crazy financial storm. And I felt, a bit victimized by it, like, because I had spent all my time taking care of my mom, as well as my toddlers at the time. My husband was out of work. I was growing a business. Okay. So I'm just giving you the context because that context is important. I think in the world we are in today, so often something is said with love, but then, brains take it and start messing with it. So I was walking in the cemetery, really just like my fists to the sky, saying like, what's going on? Like, how is this fair that me, a good person, has all this debt, right? When I was just trying to do the best I could do. And because we didn't have income streams, a significant income stream at the time, and so many expenses, we accumulated debt really quickly. There was also a big piece of me that felt shame about it, that felt guilt about it. And so this was the context of the conversation. And I said, what did I do wrong? And that is really important, that piece of it, because when I get to the questions that some of you may have, I think it's important to know that the conversation started with, what did I do wrong? That this is what I deserve. And the angels very quickly came in and said, you did nothing wrong. Debt is not proof that you did something wrong. Debt is proof that you gave more than you had to give. So that piece that you gave more than you had to give is what generated the questions from one of my facilitators. So here are the questions that I'm going to now answer. The first is, okay, Patty, I was listening to you. So gave to whom? Like, who is it that you gave too much to, essentially, right? So debt is proof that you gave more than you had to give. Well, the thing is, it could be really anyone or anything, and it isn't just money. And the way that you work with this concept is first to understand it was offered to me as a balm, BALM, as a balm by the angels. And so when you're listening to me say it, I want you to feel it that way as well. That this is a soothing, this is offering that you're not bad, you are not wrong. This is a symptom of something. And the something is giving more than you have to give. So in my own situation, it would have been, I was, from a real practical standpoint, at the time, my children were in private school because our school district was really not something that I felt I could send my kids to, our public school. I never asked for a scholarship, even though I had been a significant fundraiser for the school. There were only about 10 or 12 of us that raised about $60,000 to $70,000 every single year. And I didn't ask for a scholarship. In my head, I just couldn't even wrap my head around it. But that would have reduced the amount of money going out the door. Right? There was me taking care of so many people and really never asking for help, right? So there's just so many places where I was giving more than I had to give. And where you apply this to yourself is not to look backwards and go, where did I give too much, right? It's really meant as a way out, right? A way out of debt, which is, okay, so if you're giving more than you have to give, how do you balance that equation? You can either stop giving or receive more, or both, right? And this moment, by the way, of that conversation is really the seed that created the receiving method and the receiving school, because it was my own journey of figuring out how to receive to balance all my giving. Because what I did know was I love to give. If it meant like not giving, that would have felt really hard for me. It would have felt really uncomfortable. And so then the answer is, okay, how do I receive more? How do I receive in excess of where I'm giving? And that exploration, years in the making. So this was, the receiving method was created in 2019. That conversation happened in 2012, right? So 7 years in the making led me to kind of play with different ways to receive. And that ultimately created the receiving method and the receiving school. So the way you work with it is not, you can look at, okay, where am I giving? Where did I give too much in the past? But the thing is, we can't change the past. Really what you want to do is debt here in your current situation? And we're talking primarily about financial debt, but this can be applied to time debt, energy debt, right? If you have an autoimmune situation that is generally caused because of stress to your system. If you've got anything that's related to excess levels of cortisol, which is that stress hormone, right? Any deep energy deficits, time deficits, all of these debts, you can apply this concept across the board. But for the purpose of this conversation, I'm going to work with financial debt, and not just financial debt, but I think the kind of debt that really feels sort of out of our control, as opposed to, maybe a mortgage or, a mortgage that feels like a regular financial payment you make that doesn't feel uncomfortable, right? As opposed to a mortgage that might be like way beyond your means. So this is debt beyond your means. That feels heavy. That feels scary. So when you're in that debt and you are feeling judgmental of yourself, you're feeling anger, shame, doubt, whatever it is, this statement, debt is proof that you gave more than you had to give, is your way out of all those emotions and the debt. That when the angel said that to me, that was the first time I realized how much shame I was carrying around it, how much frustration and anger and all of that stuff. And even though I was saying, why, what, like I was saying it with anger, like, what did I do so wrong? Deep down inside, there was more of a like built up crying part of me that was like, what did I do so wrong? Like that really did want to know, like, where did I go wrong? Right? Where did I go wrong to end up in this situation? So, so if you are dealing with debt and you're working with this, really, I encourage you not to so focus on the past other than to highlight what opportunities you have to work on in the future, because we tend to continue behaviors. But if you gave a lot to someone that didn't deserve your time and you've let go of that relationship or that pattern of behavior, no, you did the thing. You've already started moving and releasing the debt, because whatever you have in this moment isn't about what you're doing in this moment. It's about what you did 5 seconds ago, 3 years ago, a month ago. Our present circumstances, debt, money, love, relationships, all of it is a result of all the things we did leading up to this, right? So what we have the power to do is shift who we are in the present moment and shift our future, right? So when you're looking at that, that idea of debt and giving more than you have to give, where I want you to look is in this moment, in this landscape of your life right now, where right now in this moment or in this day, in this week, in this like point in your life, are you giving more than you have to give, right? On every level. And that's at the heart of receiving school is, if you're giving, like I was taking care of a mom who was sick, who was, on a journey towards earth death, right? Would I have wanted to stop giving to her? Absolutely not. So where did I need to receive? If I could have known this while that was going on, it would have been to receive support, receive help in all the forms, right? And so what receiving school does for you from the moment you start, from that very first exercise with breathing in the morning, all of the journey you're taking through receiving school is to make you aware of where you are not receiving fully and then to shift that, right? And so if depending on where you are in receiving school, especially if you're at a point where you're stuck, maybe because the exercise is challenging for you, or it's the one that's brought up something big for you to look at, I want to encourage you, one, be asking questions. Two, come to me on the live calls if you can, but if not, come in the group, because I can move you out of that place. I promise you, we've done it with so many people. And almost always the stuck points are the common places, because your brain gets scared that you're really going to shift this time. And it shuts you down by telling you, don't go any further. All right. So I just want to assure you about that. So as you look across the landscape, are there places where you're giving too much? Again, like I said, giving too much money towards my kids' schooling. The reality was our income wasn't what it was when we joined that school, and we did qualify for a scholarship, but I didn't ask for it, right? So some of it may be asking, some of it may simply be receiving. I had lots of offers for help taking care of my mom that I refused, because I thought I should be able to do it all myself. All right. So when you look at who are you giving to whom, and is it to others? It can be to others. It can be, if you're putting a lot of energy of concern for like groups of people that are out there in the world. But you can't actually control those situations. Like maybe a tragedy has happened somewhere and and you just keep thinking like, oh, like you're sending energy out of your body to that situation through worry and fear and all of that. That's one place where you can really quiet that down and just decide, is there something I can legitimately give here that's going to move the dial for those people? And if there isn't, let yourself go from the energetic cords of that situation. So it can be, you could be giving to social media, you could be giving financially to places that just don't deserve your time, energy, money, etc. So that's the first. The bigger place I want you to look is, where can you receive more? And again, as you go, you don't have to overthink this. Just work your way through receiving school and it will reveal itself. That's the value of the receiving school, is it's all done to figure it out for you. All you have to do is those simple exercises each week. All right. So the next question was, well then, and then the other was, is it giving to myself? And the answer is no, not at all. If you're giving to yourself, that's a good thing. Taking care of yourself is a good thing. That's not what we're talking about. However, if you're spending money on something to make yourself better because your ego believes you're not enough, then that could be an area where you're giving too much. I see that a lot in entrepreneurs who keep investing in program after program after program because they don't think they know enough, right? Or someone that goes out and gets a degree or another certificate because they don't think they're enough to do their work in the world. Yeah, that may be where you want to settle down a little bit and just take a pause. But generally, giving to ourselves is a good thing. So if you have any questions about that specific one, if you could give me a specific explanation of how you're giving to yourself and you're concerned that it may be too much, I can address it directly. So then the next question that person brought up is, well, then I have guilt that I'm the one that got us into debt and it wasn't necessary. All right. So the challenge with that particular question is, it's all looking back. You're still looking for how you got it wrong. And the reality is you didn't get anything wrong. Your giving more than you have to give came from love. Just trust me on this. It came from love. It's just you weren't receiving in balance with it. And the reason you weren't receiving is because from a young age, we are all trained that giving is good and receiving is bad. Hence the reason for us to relearn receiving, right? There's no guilt there to have, because it just was the nature of where you were in relationship to yourself, your own worth, all of it, right? All of it. And I'm proof, right? The debt eventually dissolved, right? We did relieve the debt, and it came through a series over time of varying levels of receiving. So receiving is the focus. And debt can dissolve in miraculous ways, but it's often not the ways that you would have expected. And so if you can understand that debt is just an energy and that your job is to dissolve the energy through receiving, that's your work. That's all your work. Okay. Then the follow-up question is, and if it was me that created the debt, so we're still going down this path, wasn't that selfish of me? And since we do talk about in the receiving school, the good kind of selfish, right? Where you take care of yourself first. So the person saying, if I was the one that did it and it was selfish of me, was that the good selfish or the bad selfish, right? The bad selfish being destructive selfish. And the thing is, it's not about being selfish at all, the good kind or the bad kind. It's a balance. It's just about balance. And what I find too is sometimes these questions come because you're at a higher level of understanding about how to work with the world, but you still haven't forgiven the part of you that wasn't where you are today. So you're applying knowing what you know now to you a month ago, a year ago, 6 years ago. That part of you wasn't at that level of spiritual evolution, personal evolution. She, he, they were doing the very best they could with what they had at the time. There is nothing to feel guilty about. There's nothing. And in fact, the debt itself in this present moment is not anything to feel guilty about. It's just to know you'd like to be free of it. That is a desire of yours. And to know that that desire exists, then you know that the ability to have the desire met exists. And so the step is, do receiving rule number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. And as you work through the program, that's where you'll start to see where you have blocks to receiving, and you'll also start to release those blocks. So I hope that this answers those questions. If this brings up more questions for you, I invite you to ask them in our group. If you're in the receiving school, if you're in the facilitation group, we can talk about it on our call as well. And then if you're watching this on video, wherever you're watching it, you can drop a comment below and I will be happy to answer it. All right. Mwah. I hope that that helped, that you got something really valuable out of it. And if you want to take receiving deeper, the best place to start is my book, Make Space for Magic. So this is sold on every major retailer. You can go to your local bookstore, Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Or if you want the links, go to pattylennon.com/make space for magic. And you will get all of the details on where to get the book. If you do want to join the receiving school because you just are ready to jump in and go deep, 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 you can learn more about how to join at www.thereceivingschool.com. My kids make fun of me when I use that www. I can't help it. It's like the extra space at the end of a sentence. Can't help it. And of course, if you have questions for me, go ahead and drop them below wherever you have found this video, and I'll be happy to get back to you.